want me to say?
Hold on. Okay. You don't know what's going to happen, but go ahead and try anyway.
Okay, so first I'm going to say this
Hi.
is Brandy Thomas with
Right.
Mile One Creative.
Right.
Do I need to say hi?
You don't?
Okay, this is Brandy Thomas with Mile One Creative. You're listening to Vroom Vroom Veer. Keep your eyes on the road. I don't know.
Yeah. Whoop, whoop. Doesn't matter.
I'm really, so the funny thing, I do comedy. I'm terrible at coming up with stuff on the spot. I'm a writer. Like I am good at planning.
Yes. We're going to talk about that on the show.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, it doesn't actually have to be funny. It just be brief and silly.
Okay.
I get it. There's two kinds of people that like to do comedy. The writer kind, right? Like the Seinfeld and the You. And then there's me, who I just like to be goofy in the moment. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just a natural goofball. Yes.
Right. Okay.
So knock it out of the park. Give it a whirl.
You want me to go?
Yeah, go.
All right. Hey everyone, this is Brandy Thomas with Mile One Creative. You're listening to the Vroom Vroom Veer podcast. Keep your eyes on the road.
Good face. I know no one can see this, but that was a comedy face. Keep your eyes on the road. I'm zany. Anyway, that was awesome. We'll keep the whole damn thing because it was all good. All right, so I'm going to hit stop. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Briney, thank you so much for coming back to Vroom Vroom Veer and welcome to the show. How's it going?
It is great. Thank you for having me back. I'm excited to talk to you again.
Yay. So talk a little bit about, briefly, because we're going to talk about it basically for an hour. But what are you most excited about at Congressional Dish today?
Well, today I have just more content than I know what to do with, which is always a good place to be as a podcaster.
Right.
Our wonderful Congress, which actually just keeps getting worse and worse, passed over 10,000 pages of legislation over the holidays. And so I get to dig into those.
Wow.
Yeah, it's offensive.
Wait a minute. Was that the last one or the new one? Or both?
So that was the 116th. We just started the 117th.
17th. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So the end of the 116th, they did pretty much all of their required work in the last few weeks of the session, which is offensive.
Parting shots. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the bills was almost 6,000 pages that funded our entire government and had COVID relief in it. No one had time to read it, obviously. And then they also authorized all of our wars. And so put those together plus all the little bills. And we had over 10,000 pages of legislation. So
they did pass a budget. Those. So we're not on a continuing resolution anymore.
We are not. Yes. As of January 1st, our government is funded until September 30th, which is when I expect them to not finish funding the government again.
Another CR. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
the only reason I know those terms is because I was in the military forever.
And it messes with you guys. It's not cool.
Yeah. Well, and now I work for the Department of Energy. Thank God I don't have the government purchase card anymore because that was such a pain in the ass.
Oh.
We can talk about that because it's funny. It would make you laugh.
Okay, hit me.
But let's go back in time first because let's also figure out like a little like if you don't know Jen and you're listening to the show, in the show notes, Jen's first show, I think it was posted in 2016. We talked about Jen's life. There's tornadoes. There's a naked man at the door. It's fun.
Wow, I forgot the things I told
you. So go check out that show, but that'll be more of Vroomy Veery style show. This show is show number 2, so we don't really have to do that, but we can catch up. So Jen and I met in Podcast Movement 1, right?
Sure.
It was Dallas.
Don't know.
Dallas, I think in either 2014 or 2015. And your room.
They did the first 3 in Texas, so I don't remember.
Right, your room was right next to my room, and we hung out and drank beer.
Okay, sounds about right.
You're like, I believe you.
Yeah,
I don't remember, but I believe you.
No, I do. I'm just trying to remember because I actually think that was the second one. Because the first one, I didn't have any money. And so I didn't stay at the host hotel. I stayed at some little crappy hotel.
Yeah, me too. See, that was where we were.
And you had to walk in the rain.
Yeah, twice.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was really muggy.
That was the first year.
Yeah, it was really muggy. I stopped going. I mean, I liked hanging out with you. I liked hanging out with some other people at the party. But the actual show itself, I didn't like. I mean, it's just a bunch of people running around with business cards.
Yeah, interesting.
Pitching. You weren't doing that, but...
No, I don't do that. I go there and I hang out and I party too much.
Yeah, it's fun. The party.
But you know what happens? Fun. I know. And what happens, and the reason I keep going is I just learn things by basically osmosis, just by being
absorbing.
There. So
Yes.
Yeah. So there's always some new piece of equipment, which off air we were just discussing, like with podcasting equipment. I don't pay any attention. I use all my old stuff, but sometimes something new appears where it's like, oh, this really would help me. I hang out at the Libsyn booth a lot. So I just kind of know what's going on in the industry by gossiping with Rob Walsh, which is one of my favorite things to do. Oh,
nice.
So I like seeing my friends. It's the closest thing I have to seeing coworkers. Honestly.
Yeah, and it's not that expensive,
Well,
it's not that
for
expensive.
Podcast Movement, because I was there since the beginning, they've had me doing the orientations.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I do get up on the stage, and what I love about the orientations, I call Podcast Movement Podcasting University, because that's really what it feels like to me. If I want to learn something, that's where I go.
Okay.
And so I get to kind of be the camp counselor for all the freshmen. And it's awesome.
It's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
So I'll have all these people over the course of those 4 days coming up to me and introducing themselves because I was the girl on the stage. They feel safe talking to me.
Right.
So I get to meet a lot of new people too. So I do it basically because it's fun.
You're like the tour guide on the cruise ship, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you got a little clipboard.
Seriously, and it's a really fun role. The only time it gets difficult is if something goes wrong with the show and they come to me looking for answers and I'm like, oh no, after day 1, the guys tell me nothing. I don't know.
I'm kind of done now.
Yeah. So sometimes organizers will get emails from me and I'm like, listen, I know I'm not involved, but I am getting a lot of questions. So can you have your operations people fill me in? Because I'm just leading everyone astray. So, it's kind of fun to be in on it at this point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do they let you get a cheaper ticket or a free ticket?
Yeah. So all speakers get a free ticket, which is really nice.
So basically you just have to pay for your travel and hotel.
Yeah, which with my new lifestyle, my husband and I will be traveling full time starting at the end of the school year. And so that will make that even easier because one of the things that kills me about traveling is that I was doing it all the time and basically paying double rent every time I was in a hotel room, which just made no sense to me. I was hardly ever home. And so why am I paying? And at the time I was in the Bay Area. Ugh. So it was like, I'm paying $3,500 a month for my apartment there.
Basically storage.
For basically storage of my IKEA crap. So I don't care about furniture. So it's not even good stuff.
I get it. Yeah, that's where I'm at too. All of my furniture is either IKEA or used. Yeah. I like it that way.
I do too. I like that if someone spills something, I'm like, I don't care.
Like if we had a fire, I wouldn't be mad, right? I would be a little mad, but I would just buy more used crap. Whatever.
I honestly wouldn't care in any single way. In fact, when we leave here, because I do have an apartment right now,
are you going to sell all your stuff, or are you going to put it in storage?
We're just going to give it away.
Wow, even better. It's easier.
It's easier, and there's people in need right now. So why try and nickel and dime to get
I kind of hope you don't have a couch. I tried to give away a couch when I moved from Los Angeles to Vegas, and I ended up spending $60 to pay somebody to take it out of my house.
Well, so what I've found really works with Craigslist is I say free stuff, only even apply. Yeah, you have to move it. I will not help. And so I found that's worked. Oh yeah, every time.
No, I got rid of most of the stuff I didn't want like that, where you just put it on some sort of free thing.
Yeah.
But that damn couch, it was just too damn big. It was.
Yeah, that's funny to me. You couldn't get the couch gone. I know. Like the first stuff that gets poached.
I guess this couch was unacceptable, and apparently, I guess I don't know. Okay, so let's see. So that was 2014-ish.
Yeah.
So, who was president in 2014? Obama.
Yeah.
See, now when I think
second term,
when I think about Obama, it just like I was like gleefully unaware of most of this stuff.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you weren't. Your head was in the bucket already.
I mean, I definitely had hope though, because in 2008, when he was first elected.
Yeah, that seemed really promising.
It did. And I was so horrified by the Bush administration, specifically starting the Iraq War. I mean, that really changed. It changed who I am in a lot of ways.
Right.
And so I was so horrified by the Bush administration. And McCain felt not quite as bad, but definitely a continuation on the war side of that. Like he really wanted to attack Iran. I was really scared. And so the day that Obama won, I remember kneeling in front of the television and just crying, just like happy, relieved tears. Like I was definitely one of those. And then the next 8 years were just constant disappointment.
Yeah, that's when you learn, like, I think the Democrats are kind of better on TV.
Yeah.
That's about it. They're better at giving ordinary folk a warm fuzzy and making them think things are okay.
There's a lot of lip service to the working class from the Democrats that they don't follow through on with action. So it's almost like they like the gridlock that the Republicans offer them.
Yes.
Because that way they can promise things, not deliver, and be like, oh, it's their fault. Which, to be fair, a lot of times it is. But they're also not using all the tools in their toolbox to get through the legislation that we want, because their corporate donors don't want it either.
Right.
They're funded by the same people that the Republicans are. And so I just feel like the Republicans are honest in their fascism, where the Democrats, they're not.
Right. They're They're the moderately fascist, or maybe they're just lying about their fascism. Maybe that's.
Well, there's certain parts where the Democrats really are different and better. And specifically what I'm thinking about is the environment.
Right.
They do believe in using the government to police polluters. And so I think that's a pretty big deal. I do think that a transition to cleaner energy, not only for climate change purposes, but I do know there's a lot of doubt about that, but pollution alone. We need the EPA. We need to have cops on the beat. And the Democrats do believe in using government for that purpose, where the Republicans run on, we're going to deregulate, which means we're going to let businesses do whatever they want.
Right. More oil is better. Right.
Yes. And they're very much owned by fossil fuel companies. That's a very different, clear divide between the two parties. But when it comes to things like wars and letting the bankers just suck so much money out of the economy and put it in their pockets, Wall Street traders getting away with anything they want to do.
And they get real upset when the hackers on Reddit try to run their game. Right. A buddy of mine, he texted me yesterday and he was like, "Did you see what happened with GameStop?" And I was like, "Yeah, go hackers. They'll probably close that loophole real soon, but yay, go hackers."
Well, that's what's nuts here. It's not a loophole. It's exactly what, I mean, you have people go on CNBC all the time and they say things that moves the market. The only difference between that and what happens on Reddit is that it was a lot of people on Reddit and it's on the internet. Right. Where CNBC, they're really just talking to the hedge fund managers. Right. And so they can move markets that way, but it's not cool to move it on the internet.
That's what I meant. I'm saying from the perspective of the hedge fund managers, they've got a loophole to close. That's what I meant.
Oh yeah, and what was fascinating to
thank
me,
you.
what's fascinating to me about the entire saga is that some of us have been watching what the hedge funds are doing, but it's so hard to explain and to even understand the dynamic of moving stocks and manipulating the market and it's shorting stocks.
People don't even understand what stocks are really.
Exactly. Like when I talk about it as a casino, low information people will come after me being like, no, it's for investing in businesses. And I'm like, no, it's not the way it's used now. This GameStop thing.
You can invest. Most people don't. Yes.
But what's funny about GameStop is that this is the first time in my life where this actually looks a little bit like investing in a company, because this is a bunch of gamers that wanted GameStop to succeed. They
didn't want it to go away.
They didn't want it to go away. They liked the changes at the top. They liked that they announced that they were going to switch to digital, but they see these hedge fund guys that were shorting the stock, basically betting on the stock to go down and doing whatever they could to make that happen. Right. They were sabotaging the business. And so these guys invest in GameStop, and it's a wild success.
Right. But then what happens though?
And then the companies that do the transactions make it impossible to buy. They
suspend trading. Right. Yeah, I know. Well, they were trying to do...
Make it impossible to buy.
Yeah, they were trying to do a... what do they call that? I get it. I think it started as a defensive move against the shorting.
Well, regardless, it's a rigging of the market.
Of course.
It's wildly unfair. And what I love about it, by preventing people from being able to buy it, but still being able to sell it, they were forcing the stock price to go down. And it's so easy to understand that all of these people, all these years that are like, the stock market's nothing like a casino. It's not rigged.
It's not rigged for the bank. Yeah,
you can't deny it anymore. And it's easy to explain.
Oh, people will deny anything. I used to say that. I used to use those words that you just used. At the beginning of COVID, I said, this is undeniable. It's not.
Oh, COVID's always undeniable.
So don't go limiting people's ability to deny anything.
Okay, but I will say that it is just such a clear example.
Oh, I already knew. Yeah. So I've been investing in the stock market, not gambling. So there's a difference. You can invest in the stock market without gambling. All right.
Okay, but you're still betting that whatever you're investing in is going to go up, and you hope that when you cash out, you make more money.
Obviously,
gambling.
It
could go down. It can go up.
It can go down. But what you're talking about, I think I don't like gambling. I don't gamble. I don't bet on football. I don't go to the casino. I don't gamble. Right. You can do investing. I don't want to get into it and teach you how to invest. But if you can, there are ways. Usually it's just, you say I don't want to do any of that. I'll just buy a stock or an index fund based on the S&P 500. It's got a really good track record and it usually goes up. You're done.
I get that the intention there.
Yeah.
I get that the intention there might feel different, but you're still betting that the S&P 500 will go up instead of down. It's still
of course. Okay, sure.
I get that we want to make it feel more sophisticated.
Gambling. Huh?
It is long-term gambling, and I get that we want it to feel not like that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we're making bets.
Fair point.
Thank you.
I look at it like this. I am betting on the continuing existence of the World Trade System.
Yeah.
So I think that's a fair bet.
Yeah, and I have mutual funds, all that too. I have money on the S&P 500.
Right.
I get what you're saying. It's not like I don't participate in the system. I'm just aware
that you're gambling.
That I am gambling.
Okay. I suppose. Yeah. We are gambling. Right. When I think my differentiation is most people are buy low, sell high. I don't do that. I just buy.
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate to sell. I really don't want to sell ever. But anyway.
And there's a different behavior in what we're witnessing with GameStop and with short selling and all that. It's a different game. And I get that it's more reckless than someone that, for instance, is investing in their 401k and they don't plan to take any money out of it for 50 years. It's different behavior. It's different reasons for placing those bets.
But you're still betting. I get it. You're still betting. So let's see. So I went and listened to some shows on your podcast. And I want to say I went back to the interesting one was show number 95. Oh, wow. That was the one. Yeah, I know. I went way back. Machine. Yeah, it was way back. But it was so that was when this fast track law, before the fast track law that you love to talk about, became law. So everybody's got to go to show number 95 because we know the answer now. That's why I like. That's what I love listening to it because it all happened. I mean, you were like predicting, say, like you were saying, the next president after the president who we don't know who is going to be is going to have 6 months on this plan.
Yeah. I think we're in those 6 months.
We're in those 6 months right now.
Yeah. That's wild. I haven't thought about that in a long time.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that. That's sort of like this hijacking of any sort of congressional oversight in making...
Over trade agreements.
Trade agreements. International trade agreements. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't prepared to talk about this. And
that's okay.
Was
don't worry about it.
Recorded, I'm pretty sure like 150 episodes ago.
We don't have to get into it. I wanted to say like it was fun, to listen to that when you were saying that all those years ago. That must have been like 6 years ago, right? Something like that.
It was a while. Yeah. And it is kind of fun to hear someone think I'm like a wizard.
Like before we had Trump. So this was all happening before Trump, pre-Trump.
Well, so basically fast track was making it easier for international treaties, which we call trade agreements, but they're treaties, to become law. And so they did it during the Obama administration.
Okay.
Without knowing, and like what you were discussing, it's like this timeline that they gave it. They didn't know who the next president was going to be. And so they gave this fast track authority to the executive branch, not knowing who was going to be in charge.
To some like ambassador, basically.
To the U.S. trade representative, who is extremely powerful, and it's always someone that no one knows who this person is. It's fascinating to me that the most powerful people in our government are often operating off everyone's radar, and that's a perfect
They're never
example.
On TV. He's basically a banker or a hedge fund manager, right?
Yeah.
So when we say like the show that we're watching on CNN that has like Democrats and Republicans, I don't know what they're doing, but it's not really government. I don't think. I don't know what they're doing.
Well, what we see on TV and what makes me insane is we see politics. We see
like
campaigns.
This fake fight. It's a fake fight.
It's a fake fight, and it's all about their next election. I actually put my podcast in the government categories in iTunes and all that because I'm not even interested in their politics. I'm not interested in their parties. I don't care about their poll numbers. All of that makes me want to go to sleep. But what goes on in government affects me. It affects how much money I have in my bank account. It affects where I can travel. It affects how easy it is for me to leave or to live. And like, is my air clean? Is my water clean?
Right. Is my food labeled correctly?
They make the rules about everything.
Yes.
And that is fascinating. And that is what we're not being told on the news.
Right.
And when you look at the international treaties, it's even worse than that because we're not even aware that we're in this World Trade Organization system on a global scale.
It's
don't
like
know
Mick
who's
Earth.
writing the rules. We don't. And when I say we don't, it's behind closed doors.
Right.
Like
even
we
Congress
don't know.
Right.
Yeah, even Congress doesn't know what's going in these documents until right before they're supposed to vote on it. It's totally shameful what happens. And in fact, the new NAFTA, so they redid the North American...
This MCS, whatever.
Yeah, but it's basically the trade agreement between us, Canada, and Mexico. They redid it. And instead of having the debate on this international treaty, they just attached it to the government funding that became law on January 1st. So they dingleberried an international treaty.
And there was a lot of public debate about NAFTA the last time they screwed with it.
There was.
It was on TV a lot. Right.
Yeah, this time it's just Approved. Negotiated by the Trump administration.
Approved. Rubber stamped.
Yep.
And you're like, on your show, you'd be like, what the golf swing? But on my show, I'd just say, what the fuck? Because that's way too much work. I don't want to edit out all my fucks.
I pay someone to do that.
Good for you.
Shout out to Daryl Darnell's podcast, Pro Podcast Solutions. Amazing company. I've been working with them since that podcast movement where we met.
Oh, that's awesome. He does a really good job of kind of editing out your F-bombs and your shits.
He does an amazing job. Well, we actually had a discussion about doing that because I want people to know what word it is.
Yes, right.
So
right.
His notes are, if I say fuck, you have to keep the F and put the swing over the so that people know.
Right. What the
yeah. And that sound just finishes the word.
Right. That's awesome, by the way. Don't stop doing that. I think it's funnier than if you'd actually say the fuck, I think.
I do too, but the people that hate it, I do have a separate feed for them on Patreon where they can get it completely unedited. So that is an option.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So basically the people that want it are paying for the people that don't want it.
Pretty much, yeah. And I have to have it because I don't know if people realize that there's China and India in particular have so many human beings, but you can't get in their Apple podcast store if you have any profanity.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's why I do it. Oh. I don't want the expletive tag.
I'm expletive all the time on purpose. So yay.
Yeah. So you have no Chinese or Indian listeners.
I don't care.
That's fair. I just feel like we have American voters over there. So
no, whatever.
Accessible.
Good for you. Stay PG-13. Get the message to China. I just don't give two fucks.
My other podcast, however, you have two.
Oh, really? Okay.
My other podcast is called Talking Fat, and that is not available in China and India because we definitely swear.
You're dropping F-bombs all the time.
Yes. I'm doing a weight loss podcast with Jonathan Oakes, actually.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So
give me the deets, and then I'll put it in the show notes too.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so the other thing I want to talk about, let's tease out. I want to talk about QAnon, so don't let me forget. I have thoughts on QAnon. I know maybe you do, maybe you don't. But before we get to that, though, there was something else I wanted to talk about. Ugh, shit. Now it's just escaped my brain.
Well, off the air, you said you wanted to talk about Biden and people being so excited, and then you also want to talk about travel life.
Biden. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about your thoughts on like Republicans versus, right? Have we done that already?
Sort of.
We can go deeper. So you're not excited about Biden?
No.
I'm excited about not Trump. How's that sound?
Well, that's the thing. So I voted for Biden. I felt very dirty doing it, but like Trump was so chaotic and had basically shelved the executive branch. Like they just weren't doing any of their law enforcement functions. Yeah, they just closed it.
Yeah.
And I'm all for looking at regulations and seeing if they make sense, but just wiping away the rule books and not enforcing any of our laws just doesn't work for me.
Right. And basically any scientific thought in DC was out the door. I was like,
exactly.
Get out of here.
And in the pandemic, that was
horrible,
concerning for me. Yeah. Like the fact that
now there was good comedy because of that, but I mean,
I
we don't
found
need
it
that.
Funny.
I'm sorry. I'm sick and morbid. I mean,
no, I get the dark humor of it, but it's only the COVID part that I just.
It's not funny. I'm not saying it's funny. When he would say things like I think we could inject bleach into our.
Oh my God.
And then the doctor, the face. I know. See, you laughed.
Yes. Of course. I don't want to like shame anyone for laughing at this stuff because you have to or else you'll go insane.
Right.
But
obviously he was
problem.
joking. Sure.
He is. Yeah. The whole COVID response was just. It was too much, so it didn't really matter to me. And the other thing is, too, back in 2016, my biggest concern about Hillary Clinton and the reason I could not possibly vote for her is that she was a war hawk and was promising to double down in Syria in a way that I saw leading directly to World War III.
Really?
So,
wow.
Oh, yeah.
Goodness.
So over Syria in 2016, the Obama administration was trying to overthrow that country. They were completely open about it.
Okay.
And so they were trying to overthrow Bashar al-Assad, the president, and Russia came to that government's aid because Syria basically went to Russia and said, hey, help us. They were invited into the country to defend Syria against us. And one of the ways they were doing that is that Russia had planes, jets that were patrolling the Syrian skies. What Hillary Clinton was promising to the Council on Foreign Relations, which are basically the rulers of the world, she promised them, and I have the audio of it, that if she was elected, she was going to institute no-fly zones over Syria, which means you shoot down planes, which means you shoot down Russian planes.
Right.
Between that and their basically overthrowing of Ukraine, there was so much Russia.
That would be like a full-on war then.
That would be a full-on war. So that's what I was afraid of in 2016. And then you look at Donald Trump, who was a total wild card. And so at the time,
good face.
It was like World War III or this
total wild card, right?
Yeah. So I mean, I didn't vote for either of them. But at the time when Trump was elected, I was like, okay, well, maybe this will prevent World War III. I don't consider that a bad thing.
Right.
And it turns out it did. I mean, he definitely wasn't, trying to screw with Russia that way.
Right.
So I actually consider that a good thing, even though the mainstream media made it seem like he's a Russian plant. It was like, no, just stop World War III. Don't really mind that. But
that's another thing we need to talk about, because you have better insights as to like who the players are out there.
Well, yeah. And so when it came to like the war part, when we saw the Trump administration try and overthrow Venezuela in a very dumb coup, but his administration was doing that. They were also war hawking against Iran. It was like, okay, he's not going to be
But he never really rose above the sword rattling kind of, right?
The Venezuela thing, they declared economic war against Venezuela in a way that's like seriously hurting the people of Venezuela. They declared another dude to be the president of Venezuela. Like I said, it was the weirdest, dumbest coup I've ever seen in my life. It didn't work, obviously, because Maduro is still the president, whether they like it or not. And whether we like him or not, it's not about Maduro. He just is the president.
Right.
So it was a really stupid coup, but it just showed me that like the regime changing was happening with Trump no matter what. So that was that whole war thing that made me stay away from Clinton. And the fact that Biden was not promising war, but was instead promising vaccines and rapid tests and giving a damn about COVID. That
climate change stuff. Yeah.
And and just environmental enforcement. I do not want fracking fluid in my drinking water. Call me crazy. So,
you're crazy.
So that's what put me over the edge to being like, okay, Biden better than Trump.
Right.
Even though I'm concerned for the second half of his administration when COVID is done in 2 years and then he gets to do his more international regime changey. Like he is very antagonistic towards Russia. So, but that's not his game right now. He's focused completely on COVID. So it was like, okay.
So let's talk about like what China's got going on too.
China's so fascinating to me. So fascinating.
So all the QAnon people have been brainwashed to say fuck China, right? And I get that because it's brainwashing and they don't understand what's going on, really. But
yeah, I don't really worry what.
I want to talk about like the meta of QAnon, not the QAnon itself. I mean, the crazy of QAnon. Like JFK is really dead. That's all I can say.
Yeah. See, I don't
talk about China though. I know they're really good at money stuff. They're basically got this totalitarian regime. They're pretending not to be free market economy, but they're free market everywhere.
Well, so that's the thing. We label them as communist, which they're not.
They're not. They haven't been for, no.
Yeah, and they're members of the World Trade Organization, which is
they are? Okay.
Oh, yeah, since the 1990s, which is why, like, these world order, the people that want the World Trade System to be the economic system that the entire world adheres to.
Right.
They let China in, and then China went like, okay, but we're not going to follow all these rules, So the rules of the World Trade System basically want multinationals to be able to operate freely and profit as much as possible anywhere in the world. China's not allowing that. So instead, what China is doing is they're controlling a lot of industries with their government. So they have this hybrid system where their government has control of a lot of companies
Right.
that are operating all
They're
over the
basically
world.
state-run
Companies.
corporations. Right.
Yeah. So they're doing this like they're in the market economy, but they also have state control and the multinationals.
So they're not playing by the
don't like
rules.
it.
Right. They're not playing by the rules.
Yeah. The multinationals are super annoyed by that. And also the Chinese have this long game. So when
Totally have the long game.
Yeah. So in the World Trade System, like, let's take Iraq, for instance.
Okay.
When Iraq wasn't playing by the rules, the World Trade System, with us being the muscle for it, went in there, overthrew the guy, put in a new government, totally free market. Hey, McDonald's, come on in. Profit the hell out of these people.
Come on in, multinationals. Let's make some money.
By the way, here's some oil. Would you like to profit from it? Go for it. So that's the World Trade System game.
That's usually what they do. That's their gig, right?
They're regime changers, and they do it with bombs.
Bombs and burgers, right?
Bombs and...
First bombs, then burgers.
Bombs, bankers, and burgers.
In that order. Okay.
Yeah, in that order. And so China plays a different game. China goes in and goes, okay, you need some new bridges. You need some new roads. Oh, would you like a high-speed rail system? We will give that to you, and in return, just give us control of this port. So they're getting control of infrastructure all over the world. They actually have a name for it. It's their Belt and Road Initiative. They have infrastructure they're controlling all over the world by being nice. And
they're also giving away money, right? Well, not giving away. They're loaning out money.
Yes, they're using the exact same. So basically, the step before the bombs, bankers, and burgers, when it comes to overturning a country for the World Trade System, is they get the International Monetary Fund to loan a ton of money to a country and basically get them indebted to the point that they can never pay it back.
Okay.
And in return
like
for
the
that
United
money,
States.
Yes.
Close.
Yes.
Yes.
Like I'm waiting for the IMF to offer us money because that's when it's come home to roost. It's just a matter of time. But they get these countries to be hopelessly indebted, and they say, okay, we're going to shut off the money that you desperately need to pay for healthcare for your citizens and to have roads and all the things that governments do.
Right.
They say,
they've got really good leverage on them at that point.
Yes. So they say, we're going to turn off the money spigot unless you change your economic laws to match that of the World Trade System and allow privatization and
McDonald's and internet.
Yep, privatization. Like, let us in to take your minerals and your fossil fuels and your water, privatize your industry, and also take government benefits away from the citizens so they are more dependent on the corporate structure that they want to be global.
Wow.
That was the IMF's game. They've been doing this since after World War II. And now China has taken that playbook and went,
I like this. This is good. I think we can do this.
I can do this too. Yeah.
And they've got a long game kind of mentality. When they bet, they want to they're like 100-year betters kind of, right?
Yeah. Like their port contracts are for 99 years.
Yeah.
And again, they want these countries to be dependent on them, not because the governments were overthrown, but because the governments are like, well, I mean, look what they're giving us. They're giving us trains. They're giving us bridges. They're giving us wells for water. Like they're making our lives better.
And they're part of the system too. So this is fun. This is something fun and like a kind of like, my hair's on fire kind of fun.
Yeah. And this is the conversation. This is how they talk about China in the congressional hearings. Then you listen to the Trump people and the QAnon people, and they're like, China bad! And it's like completely disconnected from the conversations happening in the halls of power.
Right.
So that's what's fascinating to me, too, is that the reason that China bad in U.S. mainstream media and in, Nuttyvilles, they're just disconnected from what we're really mad at them for.
Right.
What we're mad at them for is for setting
for
up
being nice.
Well, they're not necessarily nice. I mean, the Uyghurs probably aren't fans. I don't want to live under their system, but at the same time, we're not offering a great
better
alternative
solution, right?
Yeah, I mean, privatization. you can't have everything be private. You can't have fossil fuel companies controlling entire towns because that gets people poisoned. That means that people don't make enough money to live.
There's no watchdog kind of scenario.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And if the drumbeat of capitalism can't be so loud that, it's already too loud.
It has to be regulated. And you
Obviously,
can't have a system based on deregulation. And again, we talked about this before, but these trade agreements, these treaties, this is how this international system is being constructed.
Right.
And when you
there's
look at
no congressional oversight whatsoever. Is that
very little because of the fast track procedure?
I like the thing about the consultation and how you consult your pet about putting medicine in its face. That was awesome.
Yeah. And what's fascinating is that these rules, these international ones, trump our domestic rules. So if anything, they should be more concerned with these international rules and how they're being written than they are about our domestic ones. And for the most part, the American public doesn't know anything about either.
No. That's confusing foreign policy.
Yes. And when I talk about it, I sound like Alex Jones.
Right.
I'm just like, you're creating a world system.
You do. Yes. So he's not 100% wrong. He's just crazy.
I mean, a broken clock is right twice a day. So, they are creating a global system, and that's why I do like what I do with my show. Is it's like I'll give people
you'll never see links either on Alex Jones, right?
No, he doesn't give you
links.
sources,
right?
And I like to be like, okay, so this is what's going on, but don't take it from me. Here's the Secretary of State,
right? Exactly. Here's Mr. Peanut talking to this whatever, right?
Yeah.
I love that.
Highlights from an 8-hour hearing about this topic. I am not insane.
It works way better. Way better. Okay.
It does.
So I know I teased it a couple times, so we have to talk about it a little bit. So have you ever heard of an alternate reality game? I'm going to go into story time a little bit.
No.
An ARG. So Cliff Notes version. All right. So back in 2017, I had just moved from LA to Vegas here, right? And my wife was finishing up her job in LA and she ended up staying there for 4 months, right? So I had a whole lot of time on my hands doing absolutely nothing. Lots of podcasting, lots of playing games. And it just so happens that one of my favorite video games had this gigantic update coming soon. Okay. So an alternate reality game is this promotional thing that companies do. So the developer of the game hired another company, right? And they do this thing called an alternate reality game to promote the launch of a new update. All right. Okay. An alternate reality game is sort of like the first ones were about movies, right? But what they do is they make fake websites. And they make these really, really hard puzzles. And they make like these like live drops with like people that are involved with the company, right? So that's why they call it an alternate reality game. There's people pulling the strings with a purpose, right? But very soon along the way, everybody in the game knows what's going on. Because the developer is dropping hints that's saying, oh, this is part of the game. This is in the game, right? So as a participant, what's going on. This is leading up to a launch of a thing that we want, right? And it's amazingly fun. It's like this big depressive moment when it's over. It's a depressive moment when you realize it's about just a launch of a game. You're like, oh, that's not really real. Because there's always this part of you that wants it to actually be real, which is stupid, but true. And then it's fun. And then the update comes out and it's over, right? Big letdown. So I was thoroughly into this, right? Like all the way. I was getting onto like YouTube casts with people I didn't know to talk about this shit because it was so amazingly. I want to just convey that it's really, really fun. Okay.
Okay.
So the whole Q thing is the only difference is nobody's telling them that it's not real. They're using the same techniques, the drops, the puzzles, the explainer videos, everything about it is an ARG. It's an alternate reality game.
Okay.
So there you have it. I just wanted to let everybody know.
Okay.
I mean, what do you know about it? And I know you bumpkins and you brainwash, gotcha. But did you spend any time looking at it at all?
No.
No, not at all. Okay.
I mean, I spend my time reading bills and laws, and I don't
heard
really know
of it.
what people. Oh yeah, and I have a friend. He's a comedian. I've been on his show a few times, and I don't know if he like identifies as a QAnon, but he is definitely concerned about rich people being pedophiles. And like he had talked to me about that before. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. And then Jeffrey Epstein was proven to be doing exactly what they said he was doing, and Bill Clinton was on the island. So it's like, I don't really know.
There's 5% of truth in everything.
Well, so that's the problem. I think that
doesn't make the whole thing true.
Well, and that's the thing. I don't know what the whole thing is, and what I do know is
the whole thing's crazy.
Every single person seems to believe a different set of things, and we're just kind of painting everybody who thought Trump that lost the election and thinks that pedophiles are the problem. We're painting them all with this one broad brush and calling them all QAnon, and it's like each person is coming at it from a different avenue, and they're believing different things, and by calling them all just crazy conspiracy theorists, this is how we end up with people storming the Capitol, because they all feel like they are not being heard, they're not being taken seriously, their concerns are not being addressed, and I actually feel for these people.
Me too. I'm thinking that they call them like a Q affected person. They're basically a victim. They're a victim of this like barrage of, and then they're also leveraging the fact of that engagement model of social media on YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah.
And that is damaging to your brain in and of itself. But then if you feed that in with this alternate reality, really fun game kind of thing, and don't tell them that it's a joke or fake, they're scared as hell. Yeah.
That's the thing, where they're being preyed upon with real fears, and what they're being preyed upon by is algorithms. Like I have a cousin. She can't. She's when I say cousin, like we're on a different age range. I'm pretty sure she's in her 70s.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But she has to be in her 60s or 70s. But she's like boomer. So she's definitely down that rabbit hole, goes to the Trump rallies, like all that stuff. Okay. She's not very mobile, so she spends a lot of time at home, too much time on Facebook. And what happens on Facebook is when you comment on something, it gives you more content like that. And so her feed went from seeing...
the engagement model, right?
Exactly. Like originally when she signed on to Facebook and all my boomer relatives signed on to Facebook, it was to see pictures of
their grandkids.
You know? To keep in touch with people that live on the other side of the country, and family and friends and all that. And what happened is the algorithm just kept feeding them what they commented on. So it's like, even I used to like Facebook, but I don't comment on every baby picture.
Right. I don't.
How many times have you be like, oh, it's cute? Like,
I did an unofficial thing. I did an experiment. So somebody, like one of my family members' friends on Facebook said, like, asked the question, like, and it was about the legitimacy of the election, right? Pre-inauguration, okay? And it was like, Biden won fair and square, yes or no? And all of the young people that were on Facebook were, no way. And then the old people, right? Like my old auntie, who's 80 something, and my dad and my dad's friends, they were like, yes. Right?
That's disturbing.
I know, right? So the younger folks were, in my mind, more affected. Now, my dad, the 80 somethings, they're like, you know, your cousin, right? In her 70s, right? But it's odd to me that she actually went down the rabbit hole, because at least my experiment, the 70s plus group, they were viewing, but not engaging Facebook. But if you engage in Facebook, then you were like all the way pegged yes. Or no, I should say. It wasn't fair, right? Now, I posted, I don't know how to tell. Right? I was ambivalent. I was like, where do I look to know that they're right? That's what I thank you for the face. Yeah, I know, right? And then somebody in my family said, you just don't know where to look. And they started feeding me all the Q crap. That was my introduction to Q. Yeah. And then I watched a bunch of videos about how JFK Jr. didn't really die. The content, if it weren't, you know, horribly sad, is amazingly funny. That's a good face. That face that you've got. It's like,
well, I mean, it's
sad. It's sad and exhausting. I know.
Yeah.
Where we're
at. I don't know how I just feel like I'm trying to combat it in the only way I know how, which is creating this career where I give people sources and play clips, but it's like we're all operating on these different planes of reality, and I don't do clickbait. Like I don't do fights. Right. And so, and actually Facebook, they announced, Zuckerberg announced that political groups are no longer going to be recommended. So I never bothered with Facebook because I never trusted them to begin with. And thank God, because like shows like mine are now going to be purposely buried. Because they're political in nature, and it's how dare you?
Well, you had already gotten to fuck Facebook anyway, so
I was there since the very beginning, and like, thank God, though.
Right.
Thank God, because there were
your
so many
business
people.
Model isn't right.
Yeah, there were so many people that had built followings on Facebook, and then when Facebook decided, like, oh, no one's going to see your post anymore unless you pay us enormous amounts of money, like that screwed so many businesses, and that happened so early in my business that I was like, I want nothing to do with this platform.
Right.
So this isn't really going to affect me, but I do have friends that have political podcasts where this is going to crush them. They have Facebook groups, and like they do a lot of engagement there. And
they just
Facebook
need to get a different platform.
But the point that I'm trying to make is just the power of these companies to determine what we see, and we don't have the ability to turn it off. Like, I would like to turn off their algorithm and just see what people post in real time.
There's this guy, Tristan Harris. I want to say Humane Technology or something like that. But if you Google Tristan Harris, I know you don't have time. I'm talking to the audience now. But he wants to legislate he thinks he's already figured it out with coders. So I don't want to pretend to be smart, but to make that engagement model illegal, and to have them have to change the algorithm to make it so that's impossible, that sort of brainwashing kind of engagement thing. You can do it. It can be done. It's code. Yeah. Because it's actually doing damage to kids' brains is his point. I mean, literally.
And boomers.
And everybody else. Anybody that's on the platform. I don't know what's worse, if it's Facebook or if it's YouTube, because YouTube uses the same engagement model. Right. So that's what I wanted to talk about. So that's horrible.
It's also just rigging of the media. Because like, if you look at, YouTube controls the search, or Google controls the search. Right. So if you're going to be searching for a video, of course you're going to get YouTube first, because YouTube is owned by Google. Right. So we also have a very big consolidation problem with these companies, where they control not only what you see, but then they also have an interest financially in sending you to the content that they own. And
right. Yeah, you talked about that. It's like, if it's just a little bit of text, you're not even going to make it to that company's site. They're not going to get that hit.
Yeah. And I don't accept Google ads. I don't accept ads in any way, not on the show or on my website, which I don't talk about enough, but I don't accept it on the website either.
Right.
So Google wants nothing to do with me. There's no amount of SEO that's going to make up for the fact that Google's not making money off of me.
Right.
You know?
I actually had somebody way back when. So this is like pre-Dink show. I had a show before that. I don't want to get into it, but I had somebody from Google call me on the phone and said, I looked at your webpage and I don't understand it. And it was about like consciousness and spiritualism and crap like that. And I'm like, you know, it's different for everybody. You probably don't get it. And he's like, no. I'm a Google guy. And I don't know what it's about. What's the keyword? You know? Yeah, I know. He was coming at it from like this algorithmic kind of, he didn't care about the content. He just wanted to know what to put in the computer.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know. That site's gone, so it doesn't matter. I thought it was kind of neat that somebody from Google called me.
It definitely is. Yeah, I just can't imagine that happening.
I think it was because I was using all of their tools and stuff. So
yeah, and see, I've just tried to stay out of the web, and I know that I was talking to someone about this the other day, that I'm hurting myself with the show by not spending time and, you know, building Facebook and all of these social medias, but I feel like I'm almost being proven right now.
It's
where
actually probably
my time.
not as good, but you're okay because you have an audience, and that's all that matters.
I do.
Yeah.
And I'm happy about my audience. What I'm trying to accept, and I'm getting better at. In the beginning of the show, I thought I might actually be able to change what's going on in the government by doing this, like giving people information. I know it's so naive, but like that's honestly like, it was one of the reasons I started. It was just like, okay, maybe I'll point these things out, educate people, and then we can vote based on voting records and knowing what's in the bills. And with the audience size that I have, I'm happy to have it. I mean, it's measured in the thousands, but it's never going to make a difference on that scale. And I guess that's the part that kills me. If I want to make a difference on that scale, then I kind of have to whore myself out to the companies and the bigger podcasters and all that.
Good term.
Yeah. But I'm a happier person by just keeping it small and doing a good job and serving my audience.
I think, you know, keep it the labor of love. I mean, it's paying your bills. And it's all donation based, which is awesome. So that means
I'm so proud of that too.
It's huge. I mean, you're working way too much. Stop it. I mean, just pay more people.
That's a problem. Yeah.
Pay more people. So that you know, are you getting somebody to do your show notes, I hope?
So I have, yes.
Okay,
yes,
good.
For the most part.
And then somebody else does all the editing. Because it's an editing nightmare.
For the show notes, my sister does all the accounting. I have an editor. Someone does all the artwork.
Good.
And
that's all funded by donation.
Yes. And then
your taxes have to be a nightmare.
Well, I'm a sole proprietor, so it's actually not that bad.
Okay.
I'm a sole proprietor, and my sister is a professional accountant who has kids at home.
You're so lucky.
Oh, let me tell you how much of a black sheep I am in my family.
Yeah.
My dad, my mom, and my sister.
All Republicans.
Biologicals. No.
Oh.
My mom is a Republican. My dad is just
independent.
Horrified by all of it.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
And my sister, like, I don't know, she's like me. She's like, parties. But they are all accountants. And then my parents got divorced, and my dad married an accountant. So I am the black sheep for sure. But my accounting is like covered. So it probably would be a nightmare if I didn't have
much accounting. You've got a lot of accounting. Good for you.
My dad will send me like a P&L, and I'm just like, I don't even know what that is. I'm like, did I make enough money? Okay.
I don't know what a P&L is.
He gets like all excited about the numbers, and I'm just like, okay.
Can I pay my rent?
Exactly. Like I was told by one of my bosses, I worked on a commission-only job, and actually you lived in Hawaii, you might appreciate this. My commission-only job in Waikiki was sending tourists up to the timeshare presentations.
Oh, you're evil.
I know. And that actually helped me with the show, because I had people all the time to my face just being like, I would be like, hey, aloha. And they'd be like, go fuck yourself. And at first I got like hurt by
I was
it, and
one of those
then-
people.
I know so many people were, and I stopped being offended by it, and I built kind of a thicker skin, which really helped with this job. But
I have a hack for that.
yeah, so I had this commission-only job. I only got paid when I got people to go up there.
Right.
And I was told by my boss, because I would just get the minimum I needed to like pay my rent. And he was like, you're good at convincing people to do things they don't want to do. If you were money motivated, you could make a lot of money doing this. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not. Sorry, I'm just in this to live in Hawaii, and as long as my
Bills
bar
are
tab is paid,
Right.
I'm good.
Do I have beer money? Yes. Okay, I'm good.
Yeah, rent, beer money, and food.
I gotcha. I'm good. So
Yeah,
let's.
and that helped with the show too, because I was like, okay, my bills are paid, so I can afford for a few years to not make very much and build it this slow way, because I'm not money motivated. As long as my bills are paid, like I'm fine.
You're good.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this whole like, or I should say, this non-governmental organizational money laundering scheme.
Money laundering, but I don't know. I have to think about that. But yes, NGOs hit me.
How long have they been doing that? So to me,
I don't know. This
You
is
don't
a
know.
rabbit hole
Okay.
that I've just explored the opening
just
to.
just a little.
Once
bit.
I found out about the National Endowment for Democracy, which is funded by the State Department, but also private donors, and is very much involved in like regime changes
Right.
and transforming other governments. They say they're transforming them into democracies, but they're transforming them into World Trade Organization puppets.
Oh, right.
And then there's also the
So basically, every country needs to be a kiosk for the World Trade System.
Well, every country in their mind is supposed to be in the World Trade System, adhere to their economic laws, privatize as much as possible, have the government do as little as possible for the citizens, and no country is allowed to do it a different way.
Eat lots of hamburgers.
Yeah, as long as they're made by McDonald's.
Right.
And if you look at our country, we're so advanced in what their vision is, and I don't think it's a particularly good thing. I mean, you can drive across this country and go from city to city to city, and they all look exactly the same.
Right.
Because there's a Walmart and a Chili's and a McDonald's, and you watch. They're all on the same corner. I don't know why those three are always together, but they always are.
Well, they're all
and
using the same business model.
Well, yeah, but it's a big box store complex after big box store complex.
Right.
It's mainly the same stores. We have some cute little towns that still exist here, and some of them have fiercely protected their businesses from these corporations.
Right.
But ideally, what they want is for the entire world to be like that, where architecture is not important as long as, a Walmart
Yep.
can get in there. We give tax breaks to these companies that come in and destroy our small towns. So this is what we want to go global. And there's other countries in the world that are like, nah.
Nah. So,
But they're not allowed to say nah. Like
but I mean,
that's-
from a like a former guy that spent a lot of time in the military. Well, former military dude, right? I saw, the military get in trouble for misappropriating funds, right?
Well, yeah.
The $500 hammer, right?
Yeah.
So from a former guy, pissed off about that, by the way, as a tax-paying citizen, that's shitty, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to hear stories like that. So then when I hear, oh, okay, well, if you just give an NGO a little bit of government money to open the door, it's seed money. An NGO can take money from anybody.
Yeah.
That's
And they
genius in an evil kind of way.
It is. And the NGOs fund other NGOs.
Right.
And they look private, but then once you dig a little deeper, our tax money is going there. It's so disturbing.
Right.
It's so disturbing.
And it's all out. It's all hiding in plain sight.
Exactly. Like so the National
cute
Endowment,
little
this is
doggy.
my doggy. Yeah, she's asleep this whole time, but she's giving me a dead leg. When you look at like the International Republican Institute and National Democratic Institute, they're funded by the National Endowment for Democracy. So our tax money does flow to these. But those two, which their name does suggest, are controlled completely by the parties, and they lie about it. But if you look who's on the boards, like the head of the Democratic one is Madeleine Albright. Like she's the chairman. The chairman of the other one is Andy Cards, who was George W. Bush's
So
chief of staff.
basically, if you didn't know they weren't government, you'd assume they were government.
Well, so they say that they're not.
I know they say that.
And technically they're not, but they are controlled by these two parties, and our tax money is funneled to them, and they go in and they change other governments.
That's just, it's called government surrogacy, right? That's what it is.
We have no idea.
And they can they do it because there's no oversight.
Yeah. And they say that. Like the National Endowment for Democracy.
It's in the charter.
Seriously.
We don't want to deal with these pesky citizens anymore.
Yeah. I think it was Carl Gershman, who is the head of the National Endowment for Democracy. I think it was him. Might not be wrong about that. But like someone very high up in that organization, right in the beginning, they said that the purpose of it was to free themselves from the entanglements of our international treaties.
Genius. Genius.
Like, the point is
evil genius. Yes.
Yeah, to get around the promises that we've made. And they were also created in the aftermath.
Because those NGOs can do whatever the hell they want. They don't have a government telling them.
Exactly. Right. And in the 1970s, it was a scandal that the CIA was interfering in other governments. And so they created the National Endowment for Democracy to do what the CIA was doing. And
so the CIA is probably basically helping.
The CIA is the people that do the shooting when it needs to happen.
Right.
The spying.
Call in the drones.
Stuff.
Yeah.
But, I look at the Pentagon budget every year, and it's pretty consistent that 80 billion of it is classified. And just to put that number into perspective, the entire Department of Homeland Security, so that's like Customs and Border Control, the TSA, Secret Service, there's 22 agencies in the Department of Homeland Security, is funded with $40 billion a year. So take that, double it, and that's our classified budget. We don't know where the fuck that goes. We have no idea.
It's probably more.
Yeah, that's just the defense side.
Yeah, it's probably more.
Well, and like you said, we have 80 billion classified of our tax money, but then these NGOs can also take private money. So who knows?
Who knows?
We're not allowed to know.
Right.
We're not allowed to see those documents.
Next time we get beer together.
Okay.
Come to Vegas sometime and we'll get beer and we'll have a much more interesting conversation.
I'm in, and I mean it. I'm going to be in Vegas quite a bit in the fall because I have 2 Raiders season tickets.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I don't even care if I get COVID. I want to be there when that stadium opens with all the nut bags. Like, it's so fun.
And I already know you're fun to party with because I've been there. Okay, this has been a blast.
This has been so fun.
Yeah, and a good break for you. So take more breaks, hire more people.
Go back to bill reading.
I'm thinking I'll probably pay you, but I haven't figured out how much. Whatever I can get away with. Yeah, I know. It's just I've listened to enough shows now to make me. Why not?
Well, and some people have figured out that when they make payments and they say the name of their podcasts in their notes, then it goes in the thank you episodes.
Oh,
hint.
See, hint, hint.
Yeah. The closest to advertising as I allow, but
I understand, and I'm not a evil guy, so it's okay. You can. I think my link is already on your show. See, so I'm already there, but that's okay.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised
words
at how
are better.
few people. Like, I've never had anyone abuse that policy, and like so few people use it. I'm like, you guys, like, tell me the name of your business, and I'll say it out loud. And like, no one does. It's funny.
Really?
Well, not no one. So, like I said, a few people have figured it out, but like for the most part.
Wow! Just send a note.
I'll just send a note. With
just send a note.
All you gotta do.
Pretty easy.
Yeah, if you include a link, my assistant just puts all the links in the show notes. Like, I don't even look at it.
You don't even know.
Seriously.
So congressional.com. What's the other podcast URL?
So that's Talking Fat, probably talkingfat.com. I'm bad. But I show up every week and we do the meeting. So just so you know what that one is, Jonathan Oakes, who you've met, right? Trivial Warfare, Jonathan. He was 438 pounds when we started this. So
the name is scratching very, very dead brain cells. But was he around in podcast movement or something?
Oh, yeah. Since the beginning. Yeah. You probably met him. He is a sweetheart, absolutely darling.
Was he on stage? Was he the guy on stage?
Yes.
At Podcast Movement?
Yeah, he was huge. You can't miss him.
Okay, gotcha. I do remember that guy.
Sorry, Jonathan, but he knows.
Well, that's what his show's about. Come on.
Like literally, yeah. He had lost 60 pounds. And then by the year following, he had gained it back and then some. And so
bummer.
we were drinking beers at karaoke and we had like a heart to heart. And I was just like, listen, like I'm not going to my Weight Watchers meetings because I'm too busy, but I still want to do them. How about we do them online? And so we've been doing it for over a year. He's lost almost 70 pounds.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
It's so amazing.
Yeah.
And so we talked for a half-hour week about our week. We set our goals for the week. I don't know. Some people seem to like it just because they can identify with either one of us. Like I'm basically maintaining and he's losing. And so
that's awesome.
It's so awesome. And just to
watch, it's a nice break for you.
It is. Well, it doesn't feel like work to me at all because it is my Weight Watchers meeting that I don't have to leave my house for. And I also like don't have to deal with any corporate crap. Like, and you've already got the machinery of podcasting. So why not, make it a podcast? And it's nice doing it with
once you've got one, I mean, it's like, okay. So does he do the production side of the podcast?
He does.
So all you have to do is show up. Okay.
Seriously.
Basically, you're guesting on that show then on a permanent basis.
And it works for me. I couldn't do any more than I do. Like I upload and it goes, and he's so good at. So what's the website?
I don't know. Talking Fat.
If we have a website, it doesn't matter because it's podcast. So it's Talking Fat. It's everywhere.
Just Talking Fat. Google it. Yeah. Talking Fat podcast. All right. Jonathan Oakes.
Yeah. And he's so lovely and I'm so proud of him.
Okay. It's all going to be all right someday, somehow. I don't know why, but it will.
I mean, it already is. Here's the thing. Our government is messed up. It is. I document more than anyone.
At least you have a clearer picture than you did back in the yellow cake days,
Well, and you know what? It does give me some power. It does, because understanding what's happening, I'm able to better prepare than other people. So like a great example of this, I did an episode on surprise medical bills. If I ever got into like an accident or something, I know how to fight the system better because I understand the system. So there's a lot of power in knowing what your government is doing. But even though our government is fucked, like we're fine. We don't have anyone drone bombing us right now. COVID will be gone in 2 years. Like it'll be better now that Biden's in charge, I think, because they care. But regardless, every pandemic has ended. So even though I do this for a living, I really am optimistic. I think it's all.
Have you seen this movie on Netflix with Woody Harrelson about soil?
Soil, like dirt?
Like dirt.
No.
I know you have zero time, but there is.
No, I have time at night.
Yeah.
For sure.
Watch that. I can't remember. It's something about, it's got the word soil or dirt in it. Woody Harrelson documentary about the environment. But basically, if we change the way we do farming, we could basically, the idea is carbon drawdown.
Yeah.
So everybody talks about solar panels and electric cars, but there's a way that you can basically do farming differently.
Yeah.
Where now Monsanto is not going to like that, but fuck them.
Of course.
We have to, right? So all the other countries around the world have already signed up to do this drawdown thing. It's actually sucking carbon out of the atmosphere. That's the goal.
Interesting. And is this basically where like you have plants on everything?
Yes.
Like plants on your roof. Plants.
Yes. But it's about like doing farming a lot more in harmony with nature instead of just like,
I love it.
Monocrops. It's more organic and hippie, so of course hippies dig it. But I mean, it would take a lot, but at least it's hope or faith.
Yeah.
Have hope and faith that we could actually reduce the carbon load in the atmosphere.
We can.
We totally can.
We can do it. Harnessing the power of our government to make it happen.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a challenge.
Or other rich people. And maybe we can get those multinationals to see like 100-year plan.
I don't have hope in billionaires giving a damn.
But I mean, there won't be
if
any
you get me
people
started on Elon Musk, we're going to go for another
I'm not
hour.
going to start. No. But all we have to do is just convince them that they want to keep making money into the future, like 1,000, 10,000 years from now. And if there's no planet, well, there's always going to be a planet. The planet will be fine. We're fucked, but the planet will be fine. But you can't sell to like rocks. You can't sell anything to rocks. So they can't make money.
Well, that's why Elon wants to bring us to Mars. So we can crash that planet. And then him and his billionaire buddies can go to Mars. Like, just go to Mars now.
That's all about like being a trillionaire or something, because there's all the resources out there.
The fact of the matter is our society, whether we like it or not, is organized through governments. That's where the power is vested. That is where it is wielded. And until we get control of our government away from these rich people that invest our money in stuff like going to Mars instead of planting trees, we have to get the power away from them and these corporations trying to rule the world and have it back for people.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And first. Yeah.
And I think it all comes back to congressional edition why I do this, where it's just like we can't control a thing that we know nothing about.
I love pissing you off because it's awesome. It's not hard either.
Oh no! And that's the thing, like, I'm not even mad.
Oh, you're mad. You're a little.
No,
mad.
I never really get mad about stuff anymore. I'm here when you bring up Woody Harrelson. I always laugh because he's my favorite. Because remember in 2012, the movie 2012.
The
world
one with
is
John
ending.
Cusack.
With John Cusack. It's a ridiculous movie, but I just love watching the world burn. So first
Me
of all,
too.
I love watching the world burn. It's how I can do my job.
Right.
And Woody Harrelson's way of dealing with it is he gets an RV, he goes to the top of the hill, and he goes, yeah, as it like
watch it burn.
Him out. Yeah. He has the best view of it. And that's how I feel.
Get a bunch of beer and weed. I'm going to ride this fucker out.
Climate change is horrible, but you know what? I'm going to watch, and there's cool stuff happening. Like Highway 1 in Big Sur washed out yesterday in a storm. I'm not happy about it, but it's cool.
Yeah. That happened to me when I lived in LA-ish. There was a big-ass sinkhole out by San Pedro.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Took out like just this gigantic chunk of road, like right on the coast.
It's just so cool. Isn't it cool to see like the stuff that we've built is so temporary?
Oh, yeah,
and
totally.
how small we are. Like all it takes is a rainstorm and like bye highway.
And we are totally just ants on a log, and the log's on fire.
And something about that makes me feel comfortable. Like I am insignificant.
That's right.
It's
Give me some
fine.
weed and an RV and a lot of beer and some rock and roll. I'm ready.
It sounds like the end of the world party would be a fun one.
Yes.
You have to admit.
How can you do better than that? That's got to be fun. I mean, we're all dying anyway. What do you want to do? Go to Mars? Like that'd be good.
Like, don't do those drugs at that party because you might die. And I'm like, I'm dying.
I'm dying tomorrow. The planet's gonna be gone.
Yeah, give me all the happy drugs.
All right, Jen, we could do this forever, but we should quit.
I know. On that note.
All right. You have a good one. Talk to you later.
You too.
Bye.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.